Hey guys.
Hey, Wayward Prodigies. We have our first celebrity special guest, Keith Sarabayka. I think I said it right.
Yes, you could.
And if you've been following our social media and seen the teasers, hopefully it'll make sense now. Yeah, so.
Oh, it's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. I've
Yeah,
always enjoyed my Supernatural extended family, both as fans and as the cast and crew, which I'll be honest with you, one of the best cast and crews I've ever worked with. So I was very happy there.
Yeah,
sorry it looked fun on the set.
It did.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
It looked a lot of fun filming on the set.
It was a lot of fun,
Good.
The boys, Jensen, and Jared couldn't have been nicer, and Misha, and everybody else was great. The directors were great. The writing was great. It was being able to go to Vancouver for, sometimes up to 2 weeks at a time was terrific. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, brilliant. So when did your supernatural journey actually start? Like, how did it start?
Well, it's funny that I had known, I met Daneel,
Jensen's
wife, Daneel Ackles, at a Buffy Angel convention in Blackpool. It was in 2004, I think, and maybe 2005. It all becomes the distant past at some point. But I remember I'd walked back from the venue to the hotel at which they were keeping us, which was somewhat inland, and I just wanted to see what Blackpool was like because I'd been there once before and hadn't had much of a chance. Well, it's an interesting town, let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And it had been sort of a picaresque journey. Hiking back was about 1.5 miles, 2 miles, and through some neighborhoods. That's all I can say, and I get back to my room and I turn on and there's this beautiful young woman sitting cross-legged in front of my door, and I'm going, oh my God, did Sean send me a present? It turned out that she was with a friend of Elizabeth Hartung, and she was staying with Elizabeth, who was staying next door, but Elizabeth had something that was going on in her room, a phone call or something with her husband. So Daneel had taken us sitting in front. So we sat and talked, and we became friendly, and it was just was a lovely time, and I was glad I got to know her. And then oddly enough, about a few months later, I was invited to a birthday party with Sean for, I think it was either Jared or Jensen, I can't remember which, and they happened to live not far from my home in Southern California. So I actually went over there with my friend John Hurd, and they just became enamored of John Hurd because he was a terrific actor, and they knew who he was, and not John Hurt now, John Hurd, the American.
Yeah.
Right, who was the
Home Alone.
Home Alone, right? Yeah, among other things, and
Sharknado,
right?
Yes, can't be a good B movie.
But John was a very good friend of mine. So Jensen and Jared just, I don't know, they just were all over him, and they were just I became elevated, and I don't know. Daneel and I actually went out dancing with a bunch of people that night. So it was like I got to. I used to dance on Broadway once in one musical back in 1983, 84 called Doonesbury, and I was able to spin her around a little bit, and it was really fun. And so cut to. Almost 10 years later, it must have been, a friend of mine had passed away. That was a very, very close friend of mine had passed away suddenly. And I was asked to do a eulogy at her memorial. And it turned out another person who was also a friend of mine, but not as close as her, but we were close with her from different angles, whom I had known since 1972, Eugenie Ross Lemming, who was one of the executive producers and married to Bobby Singer, who is the showrunner for Supernatural. We both gave eulogy. She gave a eulogy as well. And she goes, afterwards, she goes, I'm going to put you on my show. And she did, and she goes, you just better not fuck it up. And every time I did a show, she would call me up and say, just don't fuck this up, right? And I guess I didn't, so because they kept bringing me back, and I had just had a whole lot of fun doing the show.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to be in the very last episode as well.
Oh, wow.
They booked it, for me just to come up for a day. It was like in April of 2020, and it was all set, and then COVID hit and they shut it down. So,
Yeah.
and then they later shot it, later that year, but it was a 2-week quarantine that you had to do, and they just decided that I wasn't worth paying for a 2-week quarantine, so they didn't have me come.
Oh,
But
man.
whatever. I was very sad because I would love to have
Yeah.
been there.
That would have
just
been good.
terribly enjoyed the show, and
Yeah.
everybody on it.
Yeah. No, the whole like camaraderie from the cast, like from all the behind the scenes stuff that's out and like
Yeah.
the bloopers and things, like you can really see like the family unit. So what would you say is like your favorite moment from like behind the scenes of Supernatural?
Did you ever suffer from a prank off Jared and Jensen
No,
and Misha?
no, they never pranked me. I don't know why. They had some sort of respect for me. I don't either that or they're afraid of me. I don't know what it was, but they're all like 6 feet taller than I am. So,
They're like,
it's everything. Every time I'm on the set, I'm like this, looking around.
yeah, craning next to see them is like, hello.
But no, they never pranked me. So I don't know. My favorite moment on the set, well, it was one of the first things that I did, and a director named Tom Wright was a wonderful man, directed the first episode I was in, and he was being very careful with me because, well, at the time, I mean, I'm 69 now, so at the time I was like 63 or 64, and he is older than me, but he didn't want to make me do any pratfalls or anything. So we're walking up and down the stairs in the sort of briefing map room, the whatever it is, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen or whatever it's called, that room, and
Oh, the bunker.
I'm going, yeah, the map room, and I'm
Yeah.
going down these stairs, and it just was, I come in and walk down the stairs. So when we walked down the stairs, they were setting up the shot, and I was just like kind of practicing because I was nervous, and I was meeting Chuck for the first time, Rob, and I'm like, I'm meeting God. So I go and I do this pratfall down the steps, and he goes, oh, he'd already shot one thing, but he goes, oh my God, why didn't you tell me that you could do that before? I would have put it in the show. They all thought I was hurt, and I go, no, I'm fine. That's one of my tricks that I like doing is doing pratfalls downstairs, so.
All master falls down the stairs are real.
Yeah. Well, that was one bit, Another was we're sitting. It was in that same episode, the first one, and I had to say something where my name is Donatello.
Like the Ninja Turtle.
And I go, no, like the Renaissance sculptor. And the first time we ran through it, I said, no, like the Renaissance sculpture. And they just wouldn't let me. They just kept saying that all the time. Says, oh, he's here. He's Keith Donatello on Renaissance sculpture. So I would try to, make poses like David, whatever.
Oh gosh, that's so good. Oh my life. Oh, it just sounds
That's
like
one thing that inspires me, because you look at films and you're like, that's what I want to be, but I don't want to do it for the fame. I want to do it for the family that's behind the so the outtake.
I don't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry.
No one understands.
Your accent's a little thick for me, so I'm just
Yeah.
I'm sure
Well,
my
like-
accent is thick for you as well. Huh?
Oh no, I
That's
have
fine.
American friends, so
would you like me to translate?
yes, please.
So Caitlan was saying how like she's into like the whole filmmaking and the director side of things, and she doesn't really want to go in it for like the fame side. It's more for the family unit behind the scenes and that whole part of the filmmaking and the industry.
Great.
That's what she loves.
Good.
the most.
I'm glad to hear that but it's like you kind of got to shoot for the fame because you won't get the rest of it if you don't get famous
Yeah.
in some
Well,
way. It's like that's
the
the way
fame's a
Hollywood
bonus,
works. Yeah, kind of the way Hollywood works.
Yeah.
Sure. Do you study? Are you a film student? Is that are you a filmmaker?
I'm a film graduate.
Oh, you are. Oh, yeah. Where'd you go?
Yeah. Hull University.
Hull.
Yeah, I'm a Hull girl.
A Hull girl. Okay. Well, great. Have you
Explains why
made
no one understands me.
made films?
I've written one. I just need to make it.
Oh yeah, well, if
Doing
you're a
everything I
filmmaker,
can.
you got the script is just the blueprint.
Yeah.
The rest of it is. I just been through sort of making films myself for the last almost 2 years since COVID struck at the theater company that I ran for 6.5 years, which I no longer run. I I put together a COVID sort of make work project, which was called In Search of a Pig, a pandemic immunity generator, and it's a comedic sort of satiric take on everything, and it's about a space hero, Dakota Jones, who's the Amelia Earhart of space, who's trying to who's searching with her crew of the USS TBD, which is composed of her second in command onboard mechanic and therapeutic sex partner Fred, and their snarky French accented holographic artificial intelligence Cherie. They're searching for Pandemic, the Lord of all viruses, computer and otherwise. And we've made 6 episodes. So I've actually had to learn how to be everything. We started shooting it, on this thing called what's it called? OBS Ninja, and it's what weathermen are shot in front of in the United States.
Yeah.
They can project things behind them, and we would shoot them. It was all sterilized, and we'd send it all to green screens and lighting equipment and audio equipment to people's individual apartment, and recorded it all individually on their iPhones and on their computer cameras, and then I edited it all together. I actually learned how to edit. I actually am a professor in a film department at a small liberal arts college in LA called Woodbury University, and I teach acting for writing and directors there.
Wow, that's fantastic. And the fact that the industry has been able to adapt for COVID, like the fact that you managed to create actual films and projects from so many people who were all over the country, and it's just fantastic to see how well everyone's adapted.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, having worked in a couple of big projects, it's really money and time expensive. I mean, my oldest son is actually the COVID officer on ABC's The Rookie with Nathan Fillion, and he has to do hundreds of tests a week, and administer, different tests, and then if people test positive, they have to reschedule and reshoot and all sorts of stuff, so it's a big deal.
Yeah, definitely is.
But the fact that it's getting there is huge. I mean, when I did this movie Encounter with Riz Ahmed and Octavia Spencer, and I only had like 3 days on it, but I had 13 COVID tests, during the course of the several weeks that I was involved with it, So it was I had to be tested twice before I was allowed to meet with anybody. Then I had to be tested each day, a rapid antigen test, to make sure that I was not reinfected. And then every week we would get a PCR test, to ensure that we were still good,
Yeah. And all those stringent measures is actually that's actually allowed productions to start back again, and it's so good to see production companies starting up again and getting not back to normal. It's like a new normal, but at least
it definitely is a new normal. It's very different, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Okay, so what would you say is your favorite project that you've been involved in across your career?
Supernatural, definitely. Well, I love Supernatural. I loved Angel. I was the 3rd season villain on that. That was a really wonderful part and a wonderful job, and everyone was pretty great on it. I even got along with David Boreanaz, which some people said, you did? I go, yeah, he and I got along great. He's a great guy to me, I don't know. I said that to David Greenwald. He asked me, who was the showrunner for Angel, and he goes, so how'd you get along with David? I go, it was the first episode of shooting. I go, it was fine. He was a great guy. I thought he was a very good actor. He goes, yeah, he comes up to the level of the competition, so. And The Equalizer was really fun, and there was another thing that I did called Prophet, which was a lot of fun, that John McNamara and David Greenwald were the showrunners for.
The Equalizer, is that the film or the new show with Queen Latifah?
Yeah, what about that?
No, you said Equalizer. I wasn't sure if
I
you were
was in
talking
the
about.
I was in the original Equalizer back in
Nice.
1985 to 1989. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's just kind of a sore spot with me, the Queen Latifah one.
Oof. All right, let's leave that there.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing in the Denzel Washington movies, but that's all right. You know.
Yeah. So
My agents actually inquired as to whether I should be in them or not, you know, to the casting department, and word came back that, oh no, we want to distance ourselves as much as possible from the original show. And I go, well, why'd you call it the Equalizer then?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. I personally love Easter eggs. If it's like a new season of like a show that was on a few years ago, I like seeing Easter eggs from the old seasons, like characters from those seasons coming back, like those little Easter eggs for.
Yeah, you would think that they would want to do that. You know, they would at least have me in as a cameo or something. You know,
Yeah.
it would be kind of fun for especially old Equalizer fans, just to see what old Mickey Kosmeyer looks like now. You know,
Yeah,
know,
it's
maybe
like
maybe I'd be some sort of, you know, CIA analyst, or I'd be retired in some secret source somewhere or something, or who knows what, you know. But no, it was like basically fuck you. They went to me, so I go fuck you back to them.
Yeah, just giving them a bit of a like.
Sorry.
It's all right.
And of course, that fuck you would go away if they would hire me, you know.
So, being on for Supernatural, you mentioned before we started that you've done a couple of these Supernatural fan conventions. So, what were your first experiences like with those?
Well, it was, I mean, they were fan conventions, you know. They pretty much were the same as the Buffy Angel ones, you know. They were run by the same people, you know, Sean, Harry, you know, and his group. So it was basically the same experience, other than it was now under a different guise, you know. Like I would always go when I was doing Angel, I would go, for 200 years I slept, for 200 years I dreamt of nothing but this moment. You know, I do all sorts of little speeches, but I don't have those kind of speeches from Donatello, unfortunately. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, my best one is like Donatello, the Renaissance sculpture. I mean, sculptor, right?
Oh, I think Supernatural missed a trick there with the speeches, because that would have been awesome.
I had some, but they were usually in Enochian.
Yeah.
Typical.
Which I got to tell you is really hard to memorize.
I can imagine. Just reading it gives you a
I
headache.
can imagine, because I had to do it.
Just reading it.
I have enough trouble just speaking English.
Me too, right?
Oh dear. You're there. Caitlan, have you?
But you know, they're basically the same sort of format, at least, you know, with Sean they are, and the people were some were the same, but there are many people that were different, and it seemed that there were a number of people to whom I was sort of a new entity, so that was kind of fun, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were both at Crossroads 3, weren't we?
Yeah.
Which one was
We
that?
were both
The Supernatural one that was
at the end of September last year.
Yeah.
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at
Yeah, so was we.
Yeah, so you were. Yes, I think I remember you actually, Caitlan.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first.
Did you get your picture taken with me?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
In front of the Impala, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I found out about the con that I was going the Thursday night, so it was literally panic station. So by the time I found out, most of the photos were sold out, so I couldn't get anything.
Oh, well, next time maybe.
Next time, definitely next time. Yeah. Caitlan, do you have any questions?
Oh, so like, what inspired you to become an actor?
What inspired me to become an actor? Well, my mother put me in tap dancing shoes when I was 4. And I had to sing. I've been working on the railroad with my cousin Joyce, who was 2 years older than me, at the Bedford Park Community Center. So I've been stuck ever since. And I was an altar boy, you know, for 6 years. I learned the mass, actually 9 years. I learned the mass both in Latin, and then I had to learn it over again in English, you know. So, but the words that I was always most heartfelt for me were Deo gratias after ite missa est. Say, go, the mass is ended. Thanks be to God. You know, that was I'm not very religious anymore. And then both high schools that I went to had very good drama programs. You know, they did a number of shows each year, and they had you know, acting lessons and acting courses, and it was it was really fun, and it was something because I was little. I'd been like an athlete and played little league baseball and was an all-star, and I was the quarterback of my middle school football team, and I played point guard on my middle school basketball team. But when I got to this Jesuit boarding school I went to, when I was 13 years old, I was the smallest, if not one of the smallest, if not the smallest kid in the class. And when I went to try out for the football team, they told me I couldn't because you had to be at least 115 pounds, and I hadn't even reached 100 pounds yet. So they didn't allow. So I had to make do. And so what did I find other than getting in trouble? Well, I found acting, and that was because I was good at reading things out loud, from having been an altar boy and a lector, at masses, reading, the whatever the epistles or whatever it was that you were read, so it was kind of a natural progression, I think, and then in the second high school I went to, uh, I, I left the Jesuit one in the middle of my junior year because we had a disagreement over and my dad almost punched out the principal over corporal punishment. I was actually given the paddle, and they were going to give it to me again. You got the paddle if you got 15 demerits, and it was something that they hadn't had my first 2 years, and that they reinstated my third year that I was there, and I. I you got demerits for doing things like you get one demerit for not making your bed that morning. You get three demerits for being late for class, things like that. And if you got 15 demerits at the end of the quarter, you were given the paddle, and it was pretty brutal, actually. I remember when I was being very brave, and I was gonna, I walked down, and I was done after lights out too, and we had buzzers in our rooms, which were like would go. There are two people in each room in the dorm rooms, and we go. Buzz was for one student, and the other was for the other student. And you hear it down the hall after lights were out, going buzz, 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 buzz. Buzz, buzz, kept getting closer. Finally went buzz, buzz in my room, so I had to go down and get it. And I walked into the dean of the hall's office, and he was actually my mentor there. And he was smoking a cigar, and he just pointed to the bedroom. And and didn't say a word to me, just looked away. So I walk in there, and there are these two big burly Jesuits, one with a paddle in their hand, which was, I don't know, about this wide, this wide, and this long, with a handle on it, and it had holes in it that would whistle when they swung it. And I went, and they just looked at me and said, "Pull up your robe." I had jammies on underneath, and bend over and grab your ankles. And I was leaning over, and the one Jesuit took a swing, and I heard it, and I was like, "Oh, I could take this," and it hit me so hard, I can't tell you how much it hurt, and it knocked me across the bed. All right, so I was knocked across the bed, and I was like, "Oh my God." That was like the most painful thing I think I've ever felt. And then they pulled me up and made me resume the position, and gave me 14 more. I went numb. I find that my mind went somewhere else, and it was part of the deal. I didn't complain, and I was called the Purple Haze for several weeks afterwards because my ass was purple, and but come a couple months later, I gotten several more demerits for various reasons, and they were going to give me the paddle again. And I called my dad, and I told him, and he and my mom drove up that day, and demanded a meeting with the principal, and he almost punched the principal out and took me out of school. So that was the end of that. And then, so I ended up going to this public high school, in the suburb to which we had just moved, and it was a new place. And I got to tell you, it was a very dark time for me, because we had moved. It was a whole different. I'd left this school that I had been the first place scholarship student at, and so I I remember. Oh, and there was like a kind of a wild bunch that hung out in the neighborhood that I was in, and they had like really pretty girls, and it was just kind of okay. This guy seemed kind of exciting but dangerous, and I I hung out with him a couple times, and then I had this sort of moment of like questioning everything, and I went to the local Catholic church, and went in, and it was confession day, Gesundheit, and I go into the confessional, and I sit there and I go, I didn't know the priest, and it was weird. It was a new town, and I go, Father, I don't know why I'm here. I'm not even sure I believe in this anymore, but I, and he goes, well, if you don't know why you're here, then you should just get out. And I went, okay, go fuck yourself. And I left, you know. And I've never been back to the church since, other than for weddings and baptisms and funerals. So anyway, I went and hung out. Needless to say, I hung out with this wild bunch, and we were called the Rat Patrol, and it was actually really fun. We had the best parties and best everything. But I ended up getting suspended from school because we would cut class and go smoke pot and have breakfast third hour, and I had this really boring French class. And she was a lovely teacher, the teacher, but she just wasn't, she wasn't very charismatic. Let me put it that way. And so anyway, I got suspended for cutting that class, and then when I got back and when I got called, they called my parents home, and I answered the phone and pretended I was my dad, which was my greatest acting job ever, with the dean of students. I went, oh, okay, so I will make sure that he never does that again. And anyway, so I had to go back to school, and they said to me, well, you're probably going to flunk this French class, so why don't you drop it? And we have this, there are these classes that are available to you. And one of them happened to be an acting class, a drama class. And I went, and I saw a couple, and I looked to see who was in it, and there was a couple girls that I thought were really cute. So I go, I think I'll take this. And that just took off from there. It just changed my life. I can't even begin to tell you. It's like suddenly things fell into place. I suddenly knew my place in the world, and what I wanted to do, and how I wanted to do it. And I became, the best actor at that school. I won the Best Acting Award both my junior year and in my senior year, and I won the Senior Dramatics Award. I went from being a guy who was suspended and basically considered scum, by the administration, to being on the homecoming court, and being a very admired person, and so I was like, I don't know how that happened, but okay, I'll take it. And then I got a scholarship to a university in Texas, which was run by a man named Paul Baker, who was a very extraordinary acting teacher and theater person. And he ran the Dallas Theater Center, and also where I went, Trinity University, for a semester, and took the greatest course on earth called Integration of Abilities, where you had to do movement, sound and movement. You had to make a sculpture. You had to compose a music piece, and you had to write a play and a short story, which I did all of it. And it was just the greatest thing to get you in touch with your sort of creative impulses, and then after that, I'm on my way. After I left that semester and I was fully intent on coming back, I happened to go see a production of Death of a Salesman with this actor Jack Warden at Arlington Park Theater, the Arthur Miller play. And I was so moved by this performance that I went with my sister, a buddy, and one of my acting teachers from high school, and I dropped them all off in the company car because I was working for a construction materials analysis firm and doing grading concrete and asphalt and soil compaction, and I'm sure all the buildings that I helped build have fallen down by now, but you're frozen up there, Caitlan. Right.
Oh no.
Oh, there you go. Okay. And I drove down to where this voice just said, if you're going to do this, go now. And it was like overwhelming, like some sort of psychic entity had taken me over. So I drove almost in a dream and parked down on Lincoln Avenue in Chicago, where I had happened to see a really great production of Poe, and where the original production of Grease had come from, that area, which was very different than the Broadway production. I can tell you, it was very different, much cooler, I thought. And I parked there, and this abandoned rubble-strewn lot that's now a beautiful park, this is 1972, and I walked over to the theater and I stood in front of it, and just as the play was letting out, and I suddenly woke up like out of this dream. I go, oh my God, what am I doing here? And I started leaning against the light pole in front of the theater and sort of banging my head lightly against it, going, I've got to stop smoking pot. I just have got to stop, And suddenly I feel this little tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and the guy was short, so I had to look down, and he goes, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm fine." He said, "Well, you were banging your head against the pole." I go, "Yeah, it's okay. It's just I said, well, can I help you? Are you looking for somebody? You waiting for somebody coming out of the show?" And I go, "Well, yeah, that's what I'm looking. Yeah." And he goes, "Well, who?" And he goes, "Stuart Gordon, who was the artistic director of the theater." And I go, and who also directed Reanimator. You may know of his work. And I go, no, I don't know him. And then Lenny Kleinfeld, who wrote the play that they happened to be doing, which friends of mine had seen several months before and said, "You've got to go see this. It's the greatest thing. It's like this little Woody Allen guy running around saving the universe. It's hilarious and really rock and roll. It's so fun. You should go see it." And so I hadn't seen it at that point, but I'd seen another production of Poe there that had been just amazing and made me go, this is what I want to do with my life, and so he goes, well, I go, I don't know Lenny Kleinfeld. And he goes, and he looks at me really strangely. And he goes, "How about Zazu Pitts?" And I go, "That's the one. Take me in to see her." And he goes, "Okay." So we go inside the theater, and there was this big sort of multicolored, multi-piece rug, with floor and ceiling and walls covered with pieces of rug. It was very hippie, 1972. And I'm standing in there, and he goes, "Zazu Pitts isn't here." And I go, "Yeah, I figured that." And he says, "My name is Bill Norris." He goes, "What's yours?" I go, "Keith Sarabike." And he goes, "I'm just going to call you Keith, all right?" And I go, "That's fine." And he goes, "Why are you here?" I said, "Well, I'm just, home from college, for the summer, and I've been involved in theater, in school and college and high school and college and community theater, and I just wanted to, I like the work that I've seen here, and I wanted to know if I could work here, and maybe volunteer and help, And he was looking at me, and I had pretty long blonde hair then, and I was really tan, and I was really fit because I was running like several miles a day. I was swimming, I was working in construction, so I was outdoors. I was very becoming, and I looked very comic book hero-esque, and Warp happened to be a comic book hero play, And he goes, he says, "Do you know what play we're doing right now?" And I go, "Well, yeah, I heard of it." And I told him all about the Woody Allen. He goes, "Oh, that was me. I had to step in because the guy that was playing it originally got hurt and he hurt his back, and I had to step in and do the part." And I go, "Okay, well that's great. That they saw you, they thought you were hilarious." And he says, "Do you act?" And I go, "Yeah, a little, And he goes, "I got someone I want you to meet." So he goes, we walk to the green room door, he knocks on the door, and the door eventually opens, and all this marijuana smoke comes billowing out, and Stuart Gordon, who looked kind of like Jerry Garcia, with a big, beefy, hairdo and beard and little wireworm glasses, and he looks at Norris and goes like, "Why are you bringing your tricks to meet me?" Basically. And Bill goes, "Stuart Gordon, I want you to meet Keith." I can't pronounce his last name. "Keith wants to audition for the role of Lord Cumulus in Warp." And Stuart looks me up and down and goes, "Far out. Come back tomorrow night with a prepared 2-minute Shakespearean reading." And he turns around and goes away, and then turns back and he goes, "Oh, and make it something militant." So anyway, I ended up getting hired. I don't want to go through any more long, boring story.
Wow.
But that's how I got my start in show business. And that play actually went to Broadway. It bombed, but what the hell, That was my brass ring, and I grabbed onto it, and I have never let go since,
Oh, wow.
And the people that are still living from the organic, Stuart unfortunately passed away during COVID, not from COVID, but during it. Are still my closest friends, in the world. So it was kind of like a big family,
Yeah.
big extended family.
That's really good. That's lovely. Caitlan,
Yeah.
back to you.
Oh, is there any like behind the scenes moments that you wasn't really the best? I'm not good at wording.
You mean in Supernatural?
Anything supernatural?
Oh, there are many, but right, I can't think. There weren't any in Supernatural, honestly. It was almost always great. You know, it was one of those shows that it's very unusual to find that there just wasn't ever an awful
No
time.
animosity.
Yeah, no animosity, never an awful time. You know. So and I'm not trying to be politic either. I really enjoyed the show, and I enjoyed my character, and I enjoyed the writing, and enjoyed the people with whom I worked, both cast and crew. You know, Serge Ledusseur is one of the best DPs I've ever met. You know.
Yeah, and that just shows the Supernatural family and how big it is, and how wonderful it is.
Yeah, and it was great, honestly. You know,
Yeah.
there was no one there that I didn't get along with. You know, believe me, there have been other shows that I've been on that I didn't get along with people, but that was not one of them. You know.
Good. Yeah, we all love Supernatural, and it's just
Hard not to.
yeah, true.
What? I'm sorry,
It's hard
Caitlan?
not to love
It's hard not
Supernatural.
to.
Well, it is. It's what I'm trying to say. It's hard to say anything bad about it. You know, it was just a lovely show to work on, and lovely people, and it was fun. You know, doing that kind of stuff is really fun.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
I remember watching an outtake where Jared fell off his chair.
He felt what?
Jared fell off
He
his
fell
chair.
off his chair.
Oh, well,
It was in an outtake blooper.
I'm sure that's happened many times to people. You know.
Yeah.
Probably.
I actually can't think of anything that happened to me that was like that. I'm sorry to say. You know.
Okay. So, Caitlin, do you want to explain these shout outs?
Shout outs.
Mm-hmm. We do it at the end of every episode, remember?
Oh yes, celebrity shout outs. Well, we've got Keith this week, and I need to think of another celebrity. I will go with Jensen Ackles, because Gene Winchester loves pie, loves retro cars. What else is there not to love?
Very true. Okay. Oh God, put me on the spot now. So yeah, obviously Keith. I'll just go. Oh God, I'll just go with Jared. Sam Winchester. Again, we got the Winchester brothers. So Sam's like story, and obviously Jared as person, he's just wonderful. And all of his charity work and everyone's charity work, it's just so inspiring.
Yeah.
So, Keith, is there anyone in particular that you'd like to shout out before we go?
No, I'd shout out to Daneel, but Jensen might get mad at me because I'm shouting out to his wife.
I mean, not Jensen. Jared did chase after Mark Sheppard after kissing his wife that time. So.
Yeah. Well,
well,
actually, Mark Sheppard lives not far from me, actually, here in Southern California.
wow.
I see him from time to time.
Yeah, we're seeing Mark and Ruth again. They're in Sculptor in April, so we're heading down there.
Oh, well, great.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show and having a chat with us.
Thank
We
you.
really do appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me on.
It's been
I hope it was worth your while. Really.
It was.
Yeah,
Thank you
definitely.
so much.
And I hope the Wayward Prodigies love it as much as we had making it.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
So,
Right, so that's the Princess of Hell
and the Empress of Hell.
and Keith the Renaissance Sculptor. Signing off. Bye,
Bye, guys. See you next week.